I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
You know, that's such an iconic phrase and so creepy in so many ways. AI is coming, and are your kids ready? Ravi Singh is an international education speaker, has served as cultural diplomat for the Department of State. He's the founder of Ravi Unite Schools, and he was Hanson's guitar player. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Ravi, I want to thank you first of all for joining us. How you doing?
I'm great, Ladona. How are you?
Doing fantastic. So we tell our kids, go into STEM, go into STEM. Still good advice?
Well, I think we got to push them into STEAM. Okay, so as you mentioned, I've come from the arts, so I have a bias here. But absolutely, the arts are a key part of this because we have to have our students having broad interests and being able to pivot. And actually, I take it one step further. We have to make sure that we have stream in schools. And what I mean by that is we also got to keep recess in there. We got to give students that time to let off steam, but also that play time to be creative and develop those skills that that AI can't do just yet.
Well, you know, so many people will agree, and science, I think, backs this up, that those who are well versed in the arts are also probably likely to do better at math. And it's hard to see for people who don't know that sort of thing, the connection between those two things. It's just you have to have a nimble mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's something that arts teaches us, in terms of empathy and communication and understanding. But it's also, especially music, it's very rhythmic and it's very mathematical, and our heartbeats in a rhythm, and we count these things. So there's very close tie-ins to math. And, I'm also a pilot. And one of the things that I found when I did my flight training was that aviation was the greatest classroom that I'd ever been in because it also has all of those STEM subjects in it, but it also has the arts because you have to communicate and you have to be able to state your intentions. So having a well-rounded education is really, really very important. And for me, STEM is too limiting. It has to be broader than that.
So are public schools on top of what kids need when they are headed into college and into the future and competing with machines?
I don't think they are, but it's also not their fault. There's a lot of pressure being put on public education systems today because we're expecting school teachers to be counselors and psychologists and nurses, and there's all these different mandates that are coming down from State Board of Education that are requiring schools to provide all these services, but at the same time, there are a lot of budget cuts. So it's all with great intentions, and it's all very important. But schools are just not being put into the position where they can meet the demands of not only legislation, but parents, too. Parents are putting a lot of pressure on schools and have very high expectations. And my basic point is that I think we should make school a smaller part of our lives, not a bigger part of our lives, and make sure that we also have strong family values and other opportunities for kids to interact with adults who are not parents or teachers, in other words, who are not authority figures, because then you have the benefit of wisdom without rejection.
So in your opinion, what's the most important skill that we need to teach our kids, and how can we teach it to them?
Well, I think when we look at 38% of jobs being wiped out by technology by 2030, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they also say that means that the tech skill has a half-life of 4 years. So that means we really got to think about what is the purpose of education and what kind of future do we want. And I believe that cultural competence is the most important skill. And what I mean by that is we really have to become aware of our own implicit biases, our own cultural connections, and then we can start to understand others. Because we are entering a global economy, a global society with more integration. And ultimately, what's the big goal here? We got to somehow achieve world peace. And if jobs are going out to AI and technology, then education also needs to focus on teaching children to simply get along with people that are different than they are.
Well, talk to me a little bit about what Ravi Unites Schools is all about.
Yeah, so Ravi Unites Schools, I'm very proud of this. It's a network of over 100 schools from around the globe. And what I do is I host online interactions between groups of students and their peers on the other side of the world. And these usually last about 45 minutes, and it's really wonderful because at the beginning they're learning about each other's food or sports or class schedules and things like that. But then the conversations organically move into things like what are we going to do about the environment, and how are we going to get rid of war, and start to deal with some very heady issues. And it's really wonderful because kids are curious, and if we just allow them to explore and give them the freedom to have these kinds of conversations, I believe again, this world peace becomes very organic. And this is a generation that wants it and is idealistic enough to maybe achieve it.
All right, Ravi Hutising, thank you so much for joining us. I want to talk to you about Hanson, and I don't have time because I'm so intrigued by that.
Well, your listeners can learn more at raviunites.com, and there's some good Hanson pictures up there, too.
Excellent. Excellent work. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ladona.